If reform can rocket through the polls with the politics of despair, what does the politics of hope look like? I think Keir Starmer's talking bollocks. I think sometimes you just got to call it what it is. When are the hard choices coming for multimillionaires and billionaires? When are the hard choices coming for the huge corporate organisations that are sponsoring this conference? When are the hard choices coming for the people who are paid £50,000 today to have a meal with cabinet ministers and access? I'm a voice that is speaking and listening to some of the people who really need politicians right now who will bat for them. And I'm absolutely going out there to challenge truth to power, to challenge excess wealth, and that's what I'll continue to do.
Zack, what the hell are you doing here?
Here to cause mischief, basically, if I'm honest. No, I want to park tanks on the lawn. Now, I don't do war metaphors, so we'll have to find a different allegory for that. But ultimately, the reason why I'm here is because the Labour Party have been corporate captured by vested interests, multimillionaires and billionaires. I want to speak to Labour Party members and say, look, I get it, we got the Tories out, but actually there is an alternative. And almost literally everyone I've spoken to, including people who are here as Labour members, go, yeah, I voted for them, but I'm not feeling particularly enthused about it. And yeah, the things you're saying seem pretty interesting and exciting. And so I'm here to talk to people and ultimately say, we don't have to do politics like this, and there is an alternative.
There was actually a fringe event yesterday, which was how do we save Labour voters from the Green Party? So, I mean, how are you attracting former or current Labour voters?
I believe that at that event, Thangam Debonair was speaking, who famously lost her seat to a Green MP, so it was interesting. In terms of appealing or attracting former Labour voters, I don't think it's hard, really. I think it's about telling the truth, talking about inequality in our society right now, talking about lowering bills, bringing water back into public ownership, and calling a genocide exactly what it is. If the Labour government won't do this, that's why the Green Party are not here to be concerned about them or to be disappointed by them. We're here to replace them.
Do you think you would work with Labour in the future, though, at the next election? Could you imagine a coalition between the two of you?
I think under Keir Starmer, it's almost impossible. I think we are way far gone now from any kind of sense of progressive politics. It'd be really silly to write off the Labour Party entirely because we don't know who future leaders will be. But what I would say about that, and obviously Andy Burnham is the name that keeps getting quoted, one, I don't think they'll let him be leader. I think the mechanisms of the party now are so strict that they will make sure that anyone with any vaguely left-wing politics will not be there at all. But second, I'd argue, even if they're there, the party is so far gone. The party has destroyed trust with the public so badly now. This is exactly why so many people are thinking about voting for reform. And so although I'm here at Labour Party conference, I could equally be there at Reform conference, because I think what really needs to be done right now is all the people who feel like politics is broken and that they've got no alternative is actually to say, if reform can rocket through the polls with the politics of despair, what does the politics of hope look like? And actually, could the Green Party repeat what reform have done, but actually with a politics of community, with wealth taxation, with ultimately being in communities and saying it doesn't have to be this way? That's the mission I entirely intend to do.
Does Andy Burnham offer more of an electoral threat to you than Keir Starmer?
No, I don't think so, because actually what I think it does is shift the conversation, and actually a bit how Kemi Badenoch has been totally destroyed by Nigel Farage. I see it as the same thing, actually. If Andy Burnham wants to do a kind of saturated version of the Green Party and people like it, then the very obvious next thing is, well, why don't you just have the Green Party? So whilst I'd welcome a more progressive Prime Minister, and I think for lots of the things I campaign on, like wealth taxes, for instance, I would imagine, and electoral reform, we'd move in the right direction. I'd absolutely welcome that. I think in terms of electorally, there'd be a very clear place for the Green Party, in the same way there is now with an awful kind of right-wing Labour government. A kind of soft left-wing Labour government is still not going to cut it when you look at the scale of the crises we have right now, both the inequality crisis, but also the climate crisis. We can't tinker around the edges, and that's exactly what Burnham would do.
Well, Keir Starmer says that actually they're just progressive politics and the country wants progressive politics, and that's the best way to fight reform. So you don't think that's the best route out of populism?
I think Keir Starmer's talking bollocks. I think sometimes you just got to call it what it is. I think we had far-right marches on our streets just a couple of weeks ago. If ever there was a time to get the lectern out, to stand outside Number 10 and speak to the country and say this politics does not represent us. We understand that people are scared. We understand that decades of austerity have happened, but racism is not acceptable. And to have that conversation, what did we get? Yesterday, we finally heard the racism word from Keir Starmer. But it was in a kind of very, very gentle tinkering around the edges way, rather than recognising that we do have a crisis in this country and that we need leadership right now. And leadership is not kind of waiting around to see where the crowd are going and then running into it and going, oh, I'm with you, please like me. Leadership is actually setting out your stall, not talking at people, but genuinely listening to them, but then working out where can you meet. And we're just not getting any of that from this Labour government.
We've just heard from Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, that there will be more hard choices ahead. So I just wonder, what do you think hard choices will look like? Do you think that people can stomach anything more difficult than it is currently?
Well, I think hard choices always seem to be for migrants, for disabled people, for unemployed people. When are the hard choices coming for multimillionaires and billionaires? When are the hard choices coming for the huge corporate organisations that are sponsoring this conference? When are the hard choices coming for the people who are paid £50,000 today to have a meal with cabinet ministers and access? I think lobbying is where we should have the hard choices, not the majority of people in this country who need a government right now who are going to go out batting for them, not the super rich.
How much would it cost to go for dinner with you?
Depends who it is, but I'll do it for free with most people. That sounds a bit too cheap.
So you wouldn't have corporate lobbyists at the Green Party conference?
No, absolutely not. Now, look, there's small businesses, I think there's an argument to have money in politics in terms of sponsorship, I think is perfectly legitimate. I think that's very, very different to what we're seeing here, which is the absolute vested interest of massive, huge donations from oil and gas companies, from private healthcare companies, from arms trade manufacturers, from gambling companies. Basically, what I'm saying is if Dale Vince wants to throw me a few bob, that's fine, but I'll put that through a different category. I think what this moment speaks to, though, is actually people want left-wing politics. They want progressive politics. They want politicians who are bold about the things they stand for and the things that they stand against. And I think what's really crucial, and again, I see this in Zoran, and hopefully people see it in me too, is this isn't about saying inequality is the only thing that matters, sod trans people, sod migrants, sod disabled people. This is about saying absolute solidarity with marginalised communities, with people who are really suffering, and actually inequality is hitting them hardest than anyone else. I'm a voice that is speaking and listening to some of the people who really need politicians right now who will bat for them. And I'm absolutely going out there to challenge truth to power, to challenge excess wealth, and that's what I'll continue to do.
Are your policies similar to Mamdani's?
Yeah, I think they're really similar. In fact, I'm watching his playbook carefully. I think there's things, for instance, someone accused me recently of wanting to nationalise Sainsbury's. It was someone from the IEA. I'm not necessarily advocating that, but he's talking about nationalising corner shops or grocery stores. And I think there is an argument to be had, actually, that if people can't get basic essentials, then those are the exact kind of things that the government should be moving in. We know since the pandemic started, billionaire wealth in this country has doubled. But meanwhile, millions of people are using food banks and warm banks, and those things are a lifeline for people. Ultimately, anything that people need is something that the government should be providing for.